Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Soccer's Overtime, your weekly look inside the San Diego Sockers and the Major Arena Soccer League, coming to you live on Twitch on a Monday night. What? Well, we got a game tomorrow, so we got to be ready to go alongside very sharp-looking Tony Sanchez. Craig Elston here with you. Oh, yeah. Got the slick haircut today, didn't you?
Paid extra for it.
Looks good. Looks good on you. Looking sharp. We are here together with you to talk about the San Diego Sockers and the world in general. Well, the soccer world in general. Tony, how's life treating you, brother?
It's been pretty good. It's been a good couple of days, ramping up for a great, lovely week, Valentine's, and a lot of Sockers action to talk about.
Indeed. On tonight's show, 2 matches against Chihuahua, now 2 losses. It leaves us with one question. What's up? We'll look back at Friday night's road loss, try to figure out how the Sockers can better match up with the Savage going forward. Our special guest should have some words on that as well. It's assistant coach Rene Ortiz. He will join us to give us the coaching staff's point of view as the Sockers head into a week that will certainly define the rest of their chase for the Western Division and, of course, the Ron Newman Cup. We've got Tacoma rising. We've got Texas falling. Has KC bottomed out? We're going to examine the standings. We'll take a look at it in MASL news and a busy week ahead. 3 matches between here and our next show. We'll look at them all coming up in Soccer's News. Thanks to everybody for joining us. This is Season 6, Episode 15 of Soccer's Overtime. We're calling this one Cornered, as we got locked in at Corner Sport Arena. Kind of boxed into a corner now. The Mexican teams seem to have the upper hand in the MASL, and it's a fun question to ask, Tony. Obviously, it was a regular season match, and obviously it doesn't matter. Last year, the Sockers went 3-0 against Chihuahua, and then Chihuahua beat them in the playoffs. And all we know is Chihuahua won and San Diego didn't. So on that level, and before we even get into videos and introspection and everything else for the 11-2 Sockers, you know, it does bear repeating on a Sockers show. Yeah, they lost to Chihuahua. They're going to lose the season series to Chihuahua. It's over. It's 0-2 with 1 to play, so they're going to lose a season series, but the world does not end with this loss.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world, but I mean, it would have been good to get a couple points down south of the border, and maybe the next opportunity comes via Monterrey. The next Sockers win in Mexico.
Wow. So we're gonna lose to Chihuahua in the semifinals and have to win twice at home. Is that what you're saying?
That's a scenario. That is a scenario, and you know what? If that's what it ends up being, I think people would be happy with that. Just don't quote me on that right now.
Very fair. Very fair. Well, yeah, as Kay Vibbert says in the chat, a win tomorrow will clinch a playoff berth. At Sockers, we don't care about these things. We consider the playoff berth clinched kind of on opening day, you know, and if that sounds braggadocious or overly severe to other clubs in the league, understand that there are levels to this. And for the San Diego Sockers, making the playoffs is never a celebration. Making the playoffs is the baseline of expectations. It's like expecting the lights to go on in the house. You know, it's not something that you are like considering an achievement when the lights come on. You go, well, yeah, the lights came on. I'm at home, living in the first world. This is what we expect. That's where the Sockers are. Making the playoffs, it's winning the playoffs. That's what it's about. And right now, there's a team that's got the Sockers number. There's a team that has beaten San Diego 4 out of 5 times in the Chihuahua Savage. And that is something to look at. It's something to examine and figure out. Let's take a look at Friday night's highlights. These highlights coming courtesy of MASL Soccer 2. Certainly not courtesy of San Diego Sockers. We'll maybe explain that momentarily. But there's Leo really getting things rolling. I tell you what, just about an ideal start to this match, Tony. First 20 minutes of this match, put it in the Louvre. In the back, still in the Louvre.
Yeah, no, it's really a masterclass by Leonardo de Oliveira coming back from injury. He's still kind of getting the feel of rehab and everything and really coming into it. But with little touches like this, who needs a power shot? Who needs to be a super magnificent dribbler? If you can just pass it into the box, into the net, that you're going to be a-okay. And look at that. Who's that again?
There he is. Leo for 2-1 after Leo for 1-0. And the Sockers come back right here to avoid just a little touch to get the ball out to Luis Tortin Perez. He squirts it off the Savage defender. 3-1. You and I, at this point, I don't think we had been kicked off the Sockers
No.
English language feed yet. We were pretty happy right here, feeling a 2-goal lead, feeling like, look, Sockers on a place, on a floor that they have controlled in the past. Feels like they know how to win here.
Yeah, and it certainly looked that way. And you were talking about just how good of a start this was. Leo coming in, getting a couple in. Tortin, who we heard Craig Childs speak about and has been touted as perhaps the next big thing, really coming into his own and showing what he can do here against Chihuahua early on. But then Craig.
Yeah, little things start to happen. And if this play, and we always appreciate Eddie cutting the highlights, but as I remember, this play started with a ball that Xavier almost could have grabbed at the edge of his crease, but couldn't control, and that put the ball back in the corner. Then Sockers got a power play called against them, blue card. Well, if you give Papa Hernandez this much space and then let the ball between your legs, what are you going to do? Tough one for Pino here, because honestly, once he's in position for this, you're expecting the block out of Guerrero. Instead, it goes right between the wickets. It's 3-3. And again, like we said, the first 20 minutes of this match were pretty dang good for San Diego. We're getting into the next 10, and this is really where things started to fall apart. This was a nice play sent right into the middle for the one-timer by Macias. But again, looking at the ball there, Ruggles is watching the ball. Tortin is watching the ball, not watching where the defender is going to be or the attacker is going to be. 4-3, the score right there. Flaco Macias, their captain, kind of a spark plug. Whenever 33 is on the board, I feel like that's bad news for the opponent. Well, we saw it again. Man, this goal has been scored on us 5 times now. Yeah. Sockers on a power play. Here, this right here, if you want to know where the game is lost, it's right here. Sockers have a power play. There's a yellow card on Felipe. Power play is coming up here momentarily. It was with about a minute and a half, a minute and change. There we are. Bad touch. Comes out. Great hustle. Diaz, Serta, not in position right there. Gets hoodwinked, hornswoggled. Which funny word would you like me to use? Gets eaten up on that play, and then it's Diaz in alone to beat Xavier off the wall and turn a potential 4-4 tie into 5-3. Losing by 2. This is the goal of the match, Tony.
Absolutely. It's a darn kerfuffle, if I may add my silly word into that. Which is serious as a face. Look, Cerda had the option to really look back and give it to Xavier. So I don't know if that's not having that trust in Xavier's legs in that situation or just not assessing correctly. But by turning around and trying to play out of that box, he really opens himself to get dispossessed. That's exactly what happens after that. It's a great effort by Xavier, but there's nothing he can do in that situation. Just bang, bang off the wall. And look, it was a great goal, but obviously coming off of a very, very not usual mistake from Cerda.
And this is a power play goal for San Diego. 5 minutes left in the third for 5-4. And you're thinking things are good. And then off of a set piece, a score right away, just 20 seconds later for 6-4, splitting the wall right in between the two defenders of the wall. So no credit there, unfortunately, for Christian as well as Pee Wee. And it goes in far net. Nothing that could be done there in terms of Xavier. So for 6-4, man down, card out. And this was a reviewed play. I'm trying to remember where this one came from. Yeah, tough elbow into Tavoy.
Yeah, and at this point, the temperatures were pretty high here in terms of what was going on. The frustration was boiling over for the Sockers. There was just no answer, and Chihuahua kept pressing, playing their game in their small field. And again, those small little bounces, and it's a game of inches at the end of the day. It really is too. This ball just traveling in between the 5-hole for Xavier. I mean, it was tough.
This was a painful one. Nunez with the shot right in between the wickets. A choice made, obviously, by Xavier here. Although in the split second, right, you're hoping. But if he puts his hands in front of him, he blocks the ball. Tried to get it with the legs. That was 7-4. Here's 8-4 on the run. This was a counter the other way. And at this point, that's match. I mean, 4 down late in the fourth. You're going to hope for a comeback, and the Sockers will narrow this scoreline and pull it to 8-6, but 8-4 is where the match is decided at this point, and it's Chihuahua just with control. I think the calmer team, and the thing about their little field is that you get behind and you look to start pressing. There's Churras to make it 8-5. You start to press, you start to take more chances, and it just opens the counter. And a place like this, a counter is 3 dribbles and a shot. You know, there's no real time for recovery. And I think it's something the Savage have just perfected over time.
Absolutely. And again, talking about Churras, right? Taking all the context into this, Churras right there, just absolutely tired, almost very, exhausted. He was exhausted even trying to do his celebration. And I guess it's one of those matches where it really wasn't set up for success at the end of the day for the San Diego Sockers against a team who should not be given any less credit than they deserve. It's a fantastic team. They've made an amazing comeback. They have the players. They are the reigning defending champs. And we talk about, fighting champions. This is a fighting champion, Chihuahua Savage. And that's what I hope this San Diego Sockers team is at the end of the day when they lift the Ron Newman Cup this season is, hey, they had some losses, but they were fighting champions at the end.
100%. You got to give Chihuahua the credit. This is a club that had a roster, a championship roster, that got dismantled in the offseason. Monterrey came back. Several of the key players, I think we looked at one point, 6 or 7 of the key players from Chihuahua made the move over to Monterrey. Of course, in addition to that, the Sockers loaned players who they continue to control. The Sockers continue to have control of Pollo's contract, of Big Rojo's contract, of Irvin Mojica's contract, but they loaned them to Monterrey because of the visa situations and to keep those players' playing careers alive. Well, you look at the roster now in Monterrey, they're 15-0. They are running the show in the Major Arena Soccer League. And the Savage came out, started off pretty decent, lost 4 in a row to Monterrey, and you were really wondering, is this team a shadow of what they were? Are they hollowed out champions? Well, Janoni Martinez takes over. Diego Reynoso comes into net. These Brazilian futsal players that we had heard about in our interview with Oscar Sanchez, guys like Nunez, who we had seen for the first time in this match on Friday and had 2 goals and an assist, like the number 70 we just saw that scored the 8th goal. He's a young player we hadn't seen before. Kleberson didn't even suit up in this game. He was a player we hadn't seen before. So the Savage have found players. They've got the leader. They've got the jefe de jefes to run things in Janoni. And I think you really have to give Chihuahua credit. Right now, they're the number 2 selection in the Major Arena Soccer League. And the Sockers are going to have to figure out how to win the title as 3rd choice.
And I would give in a little bit more to that narrative of like, well, they're away. Corner Sport Arena is a small field. It's bumpy, lucky bounces, eye tests and magic spray shenanigans. But no, they had done it here in San Diego. They did it here in San Diego. They came into the Pachanga Arena. They took care of business, and then they went back home to do their part over in Mexico. So I don't think it's a fluke by any stretch of the imagination that this team is firing on all cylinders. And again, to the credit of Janoni Martinez and everything he's been able to just revolutionize with Savage in such a short amount of time. I don't know if it's a Mike's Magic stuff situation like in Space Jam and it's Janoni's Magic Jugo, and this is just turning, some ordinary Chihuahua 2 players into these Brazilian monsters. I saw Adriano and I was like, oh, okay. They carry the name Adriano. That's a big name in Brazil overall. Just kind of like Gabigol is one of those names that in soccer just like puts like an extra, okay, you went with that. And they're really putting themselves out there and on the map. So again, I really hope, to echo a sentiment that I saw here by Susan earlier, and I think I mentioned it during the broadcast, is when is San Diego going to peak? If they're going to peak, I don't think we've seen the best of San Diego, but if they're going to peak into the playoffs, going into that big push where it really matters, there's eliminations, there's games that there's no tomorrow, and that's when they play their best, I cannot fault the Sockers for that. And I think we have yet to see the best of this team. Hopefully they get it together sooner rather than later. Some injuries, some players that need to be coming back and be and playing a little bit better. But overall, like, look, they're the better team. They are the better team.
Yeah, and it's no shame to say that, and again, Eddie makes a point. Charlie Gonzalez was not there. That's great. Right. Absolutely true. Boris Pardo was not there. Absolutely true. Gabigol, not there. You mentioned that, Tony. So, like, you can look at the roster and say, we're not 100% down there. It's a result that you have to consider in that sense. It's going to be that way every game that the Sockers play south of the border. There's always going to be a player roster restriction of one sort or another, whether it's a Brazilian that can't travel to Mexico, whether it's a player that's working on their permanent green card and can't travel back and forth while the case is being adjudicated, whether it's a player who is legal but still can't travel south of the border for this reason and that reason. I mean, I'm telling you, it's always going to be that way. It is a structural advantage within the major arena soccer league for Mexican teams. Is it good? Is it right? Is it proper? Of course not. Of course not. And who is that on? It's on the major arena soccer league. Period. End of story. We have talked about it many times in years past, Tony. Teams, owners within this league, unwilling to commit fully to the financial disclosures, to the information gathering that is needed for this league to be recognized by our country, by our government, as a major, properly run international sporting league. Trust me when I tell you, the Padres have signed international players who then get their visa in a day. Today I was reading Luis Patino down in Venezuela. Boop, got his P1. He's on the way. Wandy Peralta was waiting for his P1 visa. Boop, like 2 days. It's on the way. The NWSL, San Diego Wave FC, signs a player from Australia. They sign them. It's conditional on the P1 visa. The P1 visa is resolved in a matter of a week or two, and the players are in place. And here in our league, P1 visas are so many times straight rejected, just rejected. Not a major league, doesn't fulfill the requirements. League is messed up in past circumstances, in past cases, and it has been a failure. So, when you see this issue, does it literally benefit the Mexican teams? Why? Yes, it does. Because they can travel their full team north of the border. They can skirt the visa issue because they're not paying them to be there or whatever. They pay them when they're down in Mexico. They don't pay them when they're up there. They figure it out. It's not a two-way street. It's a one-way street. It's players who don't have the ability to go south, while the players who are south have the ability to come north. And it used to not even be that way. It used to be that the Mexican teams had Mexican players that had to play in Mexico. And now you see a guy like an Ismael Rojo who has no P1 visa, Torres Gonzalez who has no P1 visa, coming across and playing all the time, on the United States side of the border. So these disparities, these inequalities, the Sockers have to punch over them, so to speak. They are not going to see them resolved. And the league is the one that would need to take the steps, and that means all 13 owners to take the steps to make this more permanently resolved.
I mean, if the league really wants to consider itself to be in growth, in that state of wanting to expand, and you have the great ambassador in Marco Fabian and company up over in Empire, bringing this futsal into Guadalajara, which I've seen on a couple of Mexican Facebook Guadalajara soccer communities where it's being talked about, and it's like, wow, I could watch Marco Fabian play. Yeah, you're probably not going to see him win, but you might see him score. He does all right. But at the end of the day, these are the things that need to really change in order to be considered a big time league. And look, right here, the Mexican department consider MASL professional league. Having grown up in Mexico, you got to pay somebody enough, or you're just gonna kind of do whatever you got to do over there to make yourself seen. And it's an unfortunate reality in a lot of aspects in living in Mexico. But look, I think it's a situation where I think they should be focusing a little bit more on that and a little bit less focus on making sure that Twitch comments get read during a broadcast. And that really kind of balances things out as far as like, where are you really getting the attention, giving the attention, right? Are we really here talking to Wisconsin man 123 over on Twitch, or hey, let's get some people together, let's have a real adult meeting, and let's go ahead and figure this out for the better of the league. It's going to eventually lead to more that.
Well, Carol and 04 with the money, the flying cash signs. I mean, that's a huge part of it. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds or get myself or get you or get anyone in trouble. I will restate, you need 13 committed owners in order to make structural improvement. Many of the changes that are necessary in the league are changes of commitment. It's, in order for this league to grow, it needs full-time staff. It needs people whose only job when they wake up in the morning is to look after the success and benefit and growth of the Major Arena Soccer League. If everybody who is working for the MASL is also working for somebody else, it's a difficult situation to grow. The best you can do is to maintain. The best you can do is incremental improvement. It's working on one little thing every year because everyone's got other duties and other goals and other responsibilities. And then, on your side time, you work on trying to improve something in Major Arena Soccer. So having a full-time staff, having a league office that was a physical place that existed, that people showed up to every day with concerns, these would all be incredible things for this league. I guarantee you every person who works on the league right now would agree with me in saying that these would all be beneficial, positive steps for the Major Arena Soccer League. You know what it takes? It takes owners committing and putting money behind it and saying, in addition to what we need to do to fund my staff in my market for my team, maybe we all need to lay away a little money to fund a staff for the whole league that is above and beyond that, and that allows us to create platforms for growth. I mean, I hear owners talking about 6-year plans to get more notoriety than the NHL. Hire a full-time staffer. That might be step 1 on the 6-step plan. So, and it's not as simple. I'm just, again, I'm speaking out of a desire for this league to be the best thing that it possibly can be. And I don't think it is right now. I think it's as good as it can be under the circumstances, which is different than saying it's the best that it can be. And stuff like, oh, sorry, you can't travel 3 of your players to the grand final. Those are the kind of things that are just part of this league right now. It's part of this league. It's part of the story. It's part of the game. It's part of the game that people don't particularly love. But you know what? Soccer's, Tony, I know you'll agree with this before we get to Rene. Like, the Soccers are never going to use any of this as an excuse. We have the talent on this club. The backup keeper was in. Charlie wasn't there. Gabi Goal wasn't there. Two of the top midfielders. The Sockers still had plenty of talent on the floor to beat Chihuahua on Friday night. There's no quibbling behind rules and regulations.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's part of the tapestry of what happened. But at the end of the day, this team is incredibly talented and they should be set up for success. However, whichever formation, whichever players they have, there is enough firepower on this team right now, currently as it stands, to be able to take it to anybody in the league. So that's all we can hope. And hopefully they peak at that right time.
Is our special guest standing by?
Señor. Sí, señor.
Listos. Okay, let's welcome him in then. He is a former Sockers player who has gone on to become a great coach, multiple-time head coach of the WMF World Cup team for Mexico, #1 assistant on the staff to Phil Salvaggio. He is a multiple-time guest here on Sockers Overtime, and especially coming off a loss and heading into a big set of matches, we wanted to get the coach's perspective. So let's bring on Rene Ortiz. Yes.
Hey guys.
The Sockers Overtime. Hi, Rene.
Paz amigos. Nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, the pleasure is ours.
You guys looking great.
That's all.
Don't lie. I think Tony's haircut is sharp too.
Guys. The best good-looking broadcaster of the league, by far.
Oh, now you're talking. Please send that straight to Philly and the doctor. We'll put that up on the scoreboard. Well, hey, Rene, obviously we're going to talk about Friday. Friday was a bummer of a result, but it was a 4-match road trip for San Diego. Some very interesting and important matches in there, pulling the game out of the fire in Tacoma, going down to Texas shorthanded and winning. When you look back at 3-1 over that 4-match road trip, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I was listening to you earlier and said the soccer will never have any excuse when things don't go our way, when things don't go well. However, some things that we just couldn't control is the fact that we have missing 3 of our starting players, not making the trip to Chihuahua, which is a very tough environment to play for any player at any level. So I think it was a very difficult game for us. Even though I think the first half we did pretty well, we started with a high pressure, kind of like a strategy, and it was working until we started making individual mistakes that eventually cost us, like, I think 4 unanswered goals. And then we just second half we started better with better energy, but we couldn't recover, missed a couple of chances. We didn't take advantage of the power plays, and I mean, dealing with, as a coach, you want to always try to worry about the things you can't control, right? You can't control how your team plays, the formation, the player personnel, but you cannot control, frustration from the coaches, from the players about referees or not getting the calls, or cannot control things like making individual mistakes that usually they never happen. So I think that's a great learning experience from us. And for example, we couldn't control not having Charlie last minute. We had a plan B, but always plan A is always better than plan B. And we're happy with in seeing Flavio on the field. Obviously, he's coming from an injury. He's not at his full potential yet. So we just have to learn from all this weekend in Chihuahua and move forward. But we're very optimistic, like you guys mentioned earlier, about the quality and talent of the players. We're going to stay 100% behind our staff and our players, our style of play. And we're going to do everything in our hands and our power to obviously bring another championship to San Diego.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I'm pretty sure the whole staff and had been monitoring this Chihuahua Savage team going prior to Genoni to now having Genoni Martinez. What do you see from de un profe a otro profe, from coach to coach, the differences with the Savage team under Genoni Martinez?
I think defensively they're more. I think more disciplined. I think we can tell they put a lot of emphasis on the defensive structure. Right, they stay behind the ball. They go high intensity, low pressure. The line of pressure is like halfway line. They very rarely go to the goalkeeper for pressure. They pick and choose when to go pressure. And offensively, they take advantage of the opportunity they have. They score, I believe, in set pieces. They take advantage of the counterattacks. They like to isolate, take shot from the outside, go far post. And compared to the other Savage team, I think the other Savage team under previous coaches, it was more dynamic. It was more movements off the ball, a lot of rotations. And this is more less rotations, but very, very disciplined and hard to break them down. Without looking at the stats, I can tell you that probably Genoni's team, since he took over, has probably allowed less goals than previous coaches. So I can tell you that their emphasis is already stay behind the ball and play hard-nosed defense. And him being a defender, I think that's like his, exchange his the style of play that he likes to perform, or he prefers better to stay disciplined and then go from there.
Rene, your instinct is exactly correct. In the first 5 games under Giannoni, the Savage only allowed 10 goals total. So 2 a game. And you guys actually put the season high on a Giannoni team with 6, but of course allowing 8 to lose. Now, many of the players in Chihuahua, in Monterrey, are players that you have had the opportunity to know, coach, become friends with, be close with the WMF World Cup teams. Monterrey is 15-0. They are undefeated on the season. Chihuahua is undefeated except for playing Monterrey, where they have lost to Monterrey all 5 times, but they have beaten every other team that they have played throughout the season. So my question to you is, these guys, you know them intimately. What sets the Mexican teams in the MASL apart? What makes them so good?
Obviously, the Mexican player has a very special set of skills that makes them successful indoor soccer players, right? Or mini football or small-sided game players. One thing that I believe, and I was talking to Tattoo from Dallas, Mesquite, Mexican teams have a huge advantage over the American teams. They have the ability of selecting pretty much any player from Mexico that they choose, to choose from. The universe of selection of players is much greater than any of the U.S.-based teams. Okay, in the culture of Mexico itself, they have 7-a-side leagues pretty much in every city in the country. They have Fútbol Rápido leagues pretty much in every city in the country. They have professional Fútbol Rápido leagues. They have semi-pro 7-a-side leagues. They compete internationally at the amateur level. They have former players who play first division, second division, third division, who are playing indoor soccer. So they have a very strong base of how the game should play and discipline. So it's just by that they have advantage over our selection process, right? Number 2, and I'm including myself because when I'm in the Mexican side, I do the same thing. But they take very pride of representing any Mexican team over American teams. So whenever they play Monterrey versus San Diego, Monterrey over Ontario, Monterrey over Dallas, it's not only Monterrey, it's also they're representing the country, the Mexican country. So they take very pride, and they're very committed to make sure they represent the Mexican side as best as possible anytime they play a U.S. team. You can see that when MLS team plays against Liga MX teams. Now it's like a rivalry they created many years ago. So that aspect, that extra, pride, they want to call it, makes them more difficult to defeat. Because now you not only represent your club, but you represent a country. And that's kind of like a perspective that I don't see much from the U.S. players when they go to Mexico, right? And I'm not talking that's a negative way, but it's just different, right? American players have different, probably growing, different culture, and they don't see Mexico as maybe like a rival as much as the Mexicans see the U.S. as a more rival on a personal basis or personal level, if you want to call it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Great answer.
I mean, look at, for example, like every time we could be last Friday, right? They were celebrating the owner was on the field celebrating.
Mhm.
For them, it's a huge, huge win. It's a big win. It's a huge event. Beating a team like San Diego is major. Has exclamation marks, exclamation points, any way you want to look at it, right? Um, so it is for any team every time you go to Mexico a huge challenge to get a good result.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much going against the entire culture of soccer in Mexico whenever you're playing La Cultura. And I mean, it's honestly simple if you want to do the math right. It takes less people to play fútbol rápido. It takes less people to play. Takes less regulations to play in between two cars en la calle with a soccer ball made out of calcetines and socks. Like that's literally the reality of that. So that's really good insight that you're giving us. But bringing it back here for the San Diego Sockers and talking about the special teams, power plays, PKs, set pieces, balón parado. What are some things that the Sockers can do a little bit better in these areas? Just tighten some things up to make them better.
So talking to Coach Field, one thing that I mentioned, like when was the last time you had like same players for set pieces, right? We've been struggling or being we've been having a challenge to have the same guys on the field on those special situations, right? If you look at power play from Texas the week before, and you look at the power play that we had in Chihuahua, you can see two players not there, totally different, right? And having two players makes a huge difference. Out of five, you're looking almost 30%, right? I mean, it's a high percentage of a difference characteristics of players that we're used to playing with. So I think one of the challenges we're going to have is having consistency on having the player that we want on the field, and obviously adjust to the circumstances that the power player you're playing against. Some like Chihuahua likes to play like a little square type of power play, and where our strategies to be a little bit different than, for example, when we play Ontario, they like to be like maybe a diamond, right? Or they switch it around. And so those are things that need to be practiced, obviously. And you can never prepare a team for the real deal. Like you never prepare a team for the real situation. You can only do the best you can. You cannot prepare my team to play in Chihuahua because we cannot create that environment that Chihuahua only creates when you're playing them. Um, and even then, for example, we used to have Cañas, for example. Cañas is a big guy on top, long legs. He steals balls when he plays power play defensively. But then you have Cañas, then you have two fast guys. Now we have to readjust to what we planned originally. So there's a lot of variables that are out of our control. So we can only, I can only tell you honestly, that's one thing that we need to put more time and effort in it to get better at set pieces and power plays. Because Craig, I'm not a stats guy, but I can tell you the Sockers getting a lot of power plays because teams cannot keep up with the ability of our offensive players. Like when these guys are playing and they're starting to knock the ball around, we get a lot of fouls, we get a lot of free kicks, we get a lot of power plays, and we need to take advantage of those situations, right? Um, so that's some things that Coach Phil, Miguel, Chiquis, and I continue talking about. But for example, this weekend we had no Charlie and no Gabby, right? Um, so we had to plan B, and it was just it was very challenging for us to adjust to that.
Well, just to back you up, because I do have the stats, Cefe. The Sockers have the most power play attempts
There you go.
in the Major Arena Soccer League, but do not have the most goals. In the Major Arena Soccer League, they are 11th out of 13 clubs in percentage of conversion. So the chances are there, and it's one of those things, and I know even talking to our mutual boss, Sean Bowers, that if you can convert those chances, if you can be a 50% power play team, you're almost unbeatable as a club, because you're always going to have those 2, 3, 4 opportunities to put it in. But if you're a 30% power play team, it lets teams be physical against you and know that they can try and get under your skin, take a hard foul, take a really questionable call that could be a blue, because if they take that blue and then they defeat it and diffuse it, well, seems like they sent a message and they didn't pay a penalty for it.
And then another thing that you might it's important to bring up: the more time we have offensive players on the field, like on power plays, the longer we spend on the field. Plus, you add the actual playing time. You might look at losing some of the, I would say, ability to compete physically towards the end of the game because they've been doing 3 power plays offensively, right? In addition to the normal rotation that they have. So he has another consequence when you don't perform well on power plays because now you have to score on a 5-on-5 basis or 5-on-5 situation, but you're not as fresh, if I call it before, because you just did 3 power plays in 3 quarters. So that point has become very important for us to emphasize. And like you said earlier, we need to pick at the right time. I mean, we are not happy with the performance this weekend. We're just not very comfortable with what we've seen. But the soccer culture made us feel that way because we only lost 2 games. It's not like we're like at the bottom or the middle of the standings. And we're talking about this stuff like we talk about all this stuff that we're talking about like we are really struggling. But if you look at it, we only have lost 2 games, right? We're still in first place. We have home field advantage in our division. So that's kind of like one of the things that when you're a soccer, you always seek for perfection and you want to be top of every little thing. However, just to finish, we had undefeated seasons and didn't end up with a championship, right? Like I think last year was one of them, almost undefeated. So we were very comfortable that we're in the right track. And we were comfortable we're going to pick at the right time when bigger players saying like Charlie and Costa hopefully will be healthy and get these guys on the same page. And this is part of the process to get there. So that's what we're doing, Greg and fans and everybody listening. We're doing everything we can using our experience and resources to get you guys ready for what's the next 2 months.
Hey, I don't mind winning a title as a third choice in a league. You know, you don't always have to be the number 1 seed. All you got to do is lift the cup at the end. And along those lines, to transition to some slightly more positive notes here, and we're thrilled to have you tonight. Tavoy Morgan has set a career high in assists already this season with 14. He's almost got as many assists as goals. He has 16 goals, 14 assists. A young man who obviously loves to find the net, loves to score, loves to dance. You know, it finds value in his offensive scoring and his ability to put the ball in the net. But what have you seen from an improvement standpoint in terms of Tavoy growing and maturing as a number 9 in your offense?
I think he has learned to play when on double teams. I was in the past. We felt that he could have done better when he get double team, kind of release the ball earlier for the support guy or the second forward coming in. I think he's done a better job in doing that. I think we still need to work on a couple of things like being able to control his emotion when he doesn't get the call. And I think Tavoy has grown with us in a culture in a way that we're very happy with him. We expect big things from him being a target and being a forward that he is. But with him and Craig, I think offensively as a as a target player that we are very happy, very lucky to have him. But again, I think just learning how to let the ball go or fit out the second when you get double team, looking for that split. I think he scored a couple goals this year so far when the double team player comes in and he splits them, right? And then finish out the chances. He's always a constant threat to defenders. Like he's always a player that defenders are worried about. So he brings a lot of attention, and that creates distraction from their defenders. It gives us another opportunity for us to other people to shine. Gabi, Charlie, then Leo, Felipe, all the Brandon Escoto. So he does also a lot of work for others by bringing that extra attention when he was on the field.
And obviously, Tavoy did really well. I was really happy to see how he developed and did incredibly spectacular at times for the season for his play. And now Boris Pardo slated to come back for this crucial set of matches this week. Relatively local, 2 at home, una en Ontario, no está tan lejos, not that far. But now you can get a little bit of breathing room here in the West. Could you kind of take us through what the preparation is looking like and what the team is getting geared up for?
Yes, obviously very challenging for us as a coach. We just came really late last night from Chihuahua. Sunday obviously was a day off, Today we were back on the field. We went at it, and we just gotta be smart. Knowing the history that we had with people getting hurt when they go back to back, or we had 3 games in 4 or 5 days. We just gotta be very smart. How do we handle the training and the fatigue? And so we're glad to have Charlie back. Pino trained with us today. So it's another positive note having Pino with us this week. Boyd is obviously coming back. It's a big one. We're still going to miss Gabby, but having 95%, 90% of the players that we plan on having since day one, I would say that's a very positive thing for this week. Playing at home also has a little extra motivation for our players and for ourselves. And Ontario, obviously, we know that they're trying to push for that for extra slot for playoffs. So I know it's going to be not as easy as maybe the first few games, but we just got to worry about making sure that guys are healthy, and we go back at it tomorrow with most of the guys that have been training with us this week, and go from there.
Bonus question here, Rene. What are your thoughts on how Marco Fabian has adjusted with Empire into the MASL? He's got a goal in every match that he's played in the league. Obviously, the wins haven't been there, but what are your thoughts on how Fabian has performed?
I was talking to Paul Wright, and he was very impressed about his professionalism and he's committed to the team. You've seen other former internationals coming and play indoor. I had the opportunity to coach when I coached Mexico, guys who play World Cups like Luis Hernandez, guys who play high level soccer, right? And it was not easy for them to adjust to the indoor game, even though it was later in their career. But Fabian, I mean, who doesn't like a player that can score goals or can guarantee you 1 or 2 goals a game, right? He has that ability. He has a gift that very few players, anyone in the world has. His commitment to obviously to the club that he's playing for and the indoor game has really impressed me. And I'm just really impressed by what I've seen. I mean, the other day I saw him like slide, tackle, and for a ball, right? People who don't really love the sport or love what they do or love what their job is, you won't see those type of behaviors on the field. And I think Fabian brings that professionalism, like I said earlier, and his leadership and commitment to obviously his team and the game. So now we're talking about, okay, on power play, let's deny the ball because he has a shot. He can score goals. He scored already 2 on us. So he has made an impact. He has made a great impact on the territory. I really hope and that he stays longer. And guys that come in from any level show the type of commitment and professionalism like Fabian is doing.
Great stuff, Rene. Before I let you go, just got to ask, last time the Sockers were at home, it was a very special night. It was alumni night. It was the last chance to have the alumni game on the field, that when you were just a teenager coming up from Tijuana, you had that opportunity to be out there on the sports arena floor and run. You got to see so many of your former teammates as well as guys who came along the road after you. How special was it to have that last run on the Midway?
It was obviously very special. My first coach that I had soccer was Guy Newman, which I played with the reserves. Seeing him, it's always great. And then players that I play with that I learned a lot from, like Queenie, Kevin Crowe. I had a chance to say hi to Branko Segura, which at that time it was obviously the superstar of the team. And then obviously others that play with me later on in my career. So just step on the field, wearing the soccer uniform, and playing for your family, my kids, my wife, friends. It's something that you never thought it was going to happen. And when it happens, it actually hits you a little bit on the emotional side because they see that they see you stuff that you love doing, and they kind of like put together all the stories that you heard in the past or they heard in the past when actually have a visual, obviously, you being on the field wearing the soccer uniform and playing. So it was very unique, very special for me. And obviously, every time I have a chance to be an alumni invite, I will treasure it because you never know when it's going to be your last one. So very blessed, very blessed.
Well, Rene, I feel the same way about every time you agree to come on the show. It's special, and we don't know if it's the last one, so we feel very lucky, but we hope it's never the last one. I'm sure we'll have you on again many times, and again very soon. But thank you so much. Incredible insight tonight. Really, really good stuff. I can see it in the chat as well. If you can, a lot of the fans really appreciative with your insight on what makes Mexican indoor soccer so strong. All of the comments that you have had. So really appreciate the time. Best of luck to you, my friend, and we will see you tomorrow night at the Grand Old Arena.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. And again, I want to thank all the fans. Without the fans, obviously, this league would not be possible. You talk about ownership, but part of the puzzle is also the fans, the people who support us, the people that follow us, the people who watch the games, the people that criticize us or cheer us on. And without them, obviously, that wouldn't be possible. So why not thank them from the bottom of my heart? And let's go, Sockers. Let's go. Let's go. Get ready for another one.
Let's go, Sockers.
Let's
Thanks,
go,
Rene. Have a
Sockers.
great night.
Hey, guys, have a good one. Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Bye.
You bet. There he goes. Rene Ortiz. Man, that was really good.
Halfway through, I just had to write it down somewhere. It's un genio. He's an absolute just genius in the terms of like being able to explain such complex situations, just the nuances of the game in a very simple manner that anybody can really just, it's a very palatable thing. And I mean, it even got me a little bit emotional. I'm not gonna lie, just talking about like, playing in Mexico, like it's such a second nature thing. You play 5-on-5, 3-on-3, whatever you have. You don't have 5 friends, guess what? Like you just cut it down halfways, and just the reality of these players who are, I think I saw a comment that they're the all-stars of Mexico in a team in Monterrey, in Chihuahua. And I just think of just all those players that I've just seen in the past that who are so much better than a lot of the players that eventually make it to the big leagues, but for whatever reason, monetary injuries, situations beyond their control, it's just it doesn't happen. But it's really, amazing to hear that great insight from Profe Rene. And I mean, I sent you a message halfway. I'm like, I can be here all night just listening to it. All night.
Really good stuff. I guess we're hoping then for significant Mexican expansion. Can we add 6-8 teams south of the border? Can we dilute the all-star aspect down there? No, really incredible stuff. Very appreciated from Rene Ortiz. We'll be playing a piece of that on tomorrow's halftime show, to be sure, for the Sockers and the Outlaws. All right. It's almost an hour in. It's time for the commissioner and everyone else in the front office to put the earbuds in. It's time for all the other podcasters to check in and get nervous or get excited. You don't have to get nervous. It's fine. It's time for MASL news. It's time to take a look at what else is happening around the league, my friend. Interesting weekend in terms of Western teams on the prowl, cruising on the road, and in particular, a couple of our clubs heading to the east. And for Paul Wright's Empire Strikers, well, almost to come back in Baltimore after falling behind 6-0, just getting absolutely boat raced at the start on the baby field at Towson Arena, the basketball court where college basketball players play, and yet they consider it an indoor court. Blast win that one 9-7. Then the Strikers went to Kansas City, and hey, if you need to figure out a way to snap an 8-game losing streak, welcome Empire into town. That one was 7-2. Didn't work out great for the Strikers. So, hey, Fabian scored. Fabian did well. Empire is out of it. Empire is out of it. They've pretty much been out of it since the start. So we don't have to take much time on this. Just a couple of, Strikers had gone east before. They had beaten St. Louis. They'd gone out on the road. They had won a couple of times. I was a little bit hopeful that they would put something up in one of these matches, particularly the first one, let's be honest. But, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, and it's cool to see just the development of an individual player. But overall, I think when the victories are being handed to the teams that are on a steep decline in such a way, I mean, looking at that score line with Baltimore and strikers, that's an incredibly deceiving score. As you mentioned, 6-0. That game was well said and done very early on. So I think that again just kind of speaks to the levels and just everybody is going in a certain tier. I have it fired up, by the way, Craig. I didn't see it, but we can move it down. But the tiers are pretty much being cemented.
Yeah, I mean, you can pull out the tier maker if you want to pull out the tier maker. That's fine. Let's go through the games. We can pull out the tier maker. You know, I don't mind. It feels a little early, but it's fine. It's fine. Because hey, Tacoma can't lose unless it's San Diego. Stars go out and extend Kansas City's losing streak to 8 with the come from behind, not just overtime, but shootout victory over the Comets. Stars victorious 6-5. Next day, go to St. Louis. Look, I mean, it's St. Louis, but thump them. 12-6. Tacoma's got a legitimate chance, Tony, to stay out of the Sockers bracket in the first round. And while I still think they would absolutely lose to Chihuahua in the first round, they've got a chance to not have their season ended by San Diego this year. I'm honestly, I'm impressed. I am impressed that Tacoma has not lost a single game to non-Sockers opponents this season. They are undefeated against non-Sockers opponents. It won't last the whole year, but they have done it. Wait a second. They lost to I lied. They lost to Monterey. Monterey went up there and beat them.
But everybody
Monterey went up
Monterey.
there. Right. So it's everyone but. So they've lost to everyone but the Sockers and the undefeated team, the team that no one has beaten. So I don't like to speak out of turn. But so Tacoma does have another team they've lost to, but it's the number one team in the East. But otherwise, they've beaten everybody else. Eventually, they're going to play Chihuahua, and I don't think they're going to go undefeated against Chihuahua. But I'm really impressed with what the Stars have done this year.
I think it's that little bit of help that we were talking about Nick Pereira getting. If he just gets a little bit of help, either having somebody at the end of his passes, just having somebody be able to capture those rebounds and use those walls in order to put him in position to take the pressure away from other individuals, and then they can go ahead and finish. That's what we're seeing with this Tacoma Stars team. And again, it's going to be interesting if they keep getting better at this point, if they can potentially contend against the San Diego Sockers, because look, the reality is Sockers have gone by, and see, how do I say this in English? Por un pelo de una rana calva, by the hair of a bald toad, is a saying in Spanish. That's what it's been.
Where do you guys come up with these kooky these kooky sayings? That is amazing. Now, one thing, and it's brought up in the chat, but it's true. Nick Pereira got hurt in the Comets game and didn't play in the St. Louis game. Now, of course, Eddie, yeah, of course the team looked faster. Nick's probably the slowest player in the entire league. I remember being in in an elevator, Tony, in 2010 when Nick was a much younger player and he and Chris were teammates. And I offhand in the run of play and commentary, when it got to Nick, said that then he was maybe the slowest player in the league 13 years ago. And like, he gave me crap, like, slowest player. I'm not the slowest. You are. You might be. You might actually be the slowest player in the league, Nick. But I mean, obviously, he's one of the spectacular offensive forces of all time. If Nick Pereira misses significant time, Tacoma's streak of success will end. Beating St. Louis is not an accomplishment in this league, so it will end. But I do really want to just offer flowers to the Stars. I think they've had a really, really good season, way better than I expected it to be. And quite frankly, they could have beat us the last time. Yeah, I got you, Andrew Harvey. Gotcha. Anyways,
let's next home broadcast. Let's just give them flowers before, and just a very serious, morose tone of how well
Should
they're
we do
doing.
a prepared statement? Should we do a prepared statement at the start of the next? No, I don't think we have to.
Oh, okay. I'm done. Rise above.
We keyed. We're goofing around. No, okay. So great work for Tacoma. Chihuahua beat Texas 7-4, 3 straight losses for the Outlaws. The Outlaws had won 8 of 9. Now they've lost 3 in a row. And as we'll talk about more moving into soccer's news, Everton Moreira has assembled his team in Buenos Aires, the U.S. national futsal team. He has called the entire mom line south. Now, I got the rooming list for Texas for tomorrow, which has David Ortiz on the list. So maybe Ortiz didn't go to the futsal camp in Buenos Aires, but Luis Morales did, and so did Sebastian Mendez. They weren't in the lineup for the Chihuahua-Texas match either, but at this point, Texas's dreams of winning the division are, let's be honest, they're dashed. They're 5 down, 3 matches out of hand, and they're going to play shorthanded in San Diego the next 2 matches. And at 9-7, I mean, come on, the Sockers have lost 7 matches once in Phil Salvaggio's history when they went 13-7 in 2015-16. So history's against you when you have 7 losses to dream of winning a division over San Diego.
Yeah, and again, they'll have 2 opportunities to try to do something about it right now, and I don't think they're necessarily poised to be that contender and give the Sockers la contención. See, sometimes it happens. It's just the
Contention?
Spanish.
Yeah, no, it's
exactly.
great. When you dream, do you dream in Spanish or you dream in English?
I've dreamt in languages I don't speak. It's so weird. We're all waiting.
So there's a part of you that's like fluent in German, but only in your subconscious?
Pretty much. And I wake up, it's like that dream where you can fly and you wake up and you're like, can I fly? And you can't. And it's like, oh, I was speaking perfect Mandarin. Wake up, no, I cannot.
Oh my God. I absolutely love it. I love it. Okay, so Kansas City. Let's dig it out, I guess, because Kansas City was 7-0 at one point, or 7-1. Then they lost 8 in a row, got points in a couple 3 of those games. Baltimore's on a roll. Is Baltimore going to beat Kansas City for number 4?
That is absolutely a possibility. And look, stranger things have happened, and it's really I don't even know who to give kudos to here. Does anybody deserve kudos? Somebody has to be 4th. Somebody does. And I think it's a race, and teams are tripping over each other, and it's just a cumbersome way to the finish line here, and it's not a pretty sight. And so whoever's going to finish in 4th, great. You made playoffs. You get a cool graphic out of it. But are they
Don't
going
count us out? Yeah, you can do an Instagram video. You can do the whole thing, you know. You counted us out. Playoff time, baby. Well, here's the remaining schedule for the Blast. Baltimore will take on Utica this weekend at home. Then they've got at Harrisburg. They host Milwaukee. At Utica, at Chihuahua, at Monterey. That looks like 3 straight losses for the Blast right there. If they pull any result out of that, it'd be incredible. They host Harrisburg. They go to Texas. They host Dallas. They go to Harrisburg. They host Utica. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4 wins and maybe 5 for Baltimore down the stretch, if they can pull maybe a home match out against Utica along the way. Let's go maximum joy. That's 5 wins for the Blast the rest of the way. That gets them to 12 wins, which would put, if you added, if they're all quality, 18 gets you to 36 points. It would mean that Kansas City would need to get 10 points the rest of the year. They need to get 10 points out of their last 7 matches in order to hold off Baltimore. I think I like their chances to get 10 points out of their last 7 matches, but let's do the same exercise. Let's look at the Comet schedule. They host Chihuahua. That's probably a loss. They go to us. That's a loss. They go to Empire. That should be a win. They host St. Louis. That should be a win. So that's 6 points. They host Utica City. That's a toss-up. They lost last time. They go to St. Louis. That should be a win. That's 9 points. They host us, their last match of the year on March 23rd.
Brutal.
Buddy, I think Kansas City has to beat Utica and get all 3 points on Sunday, March 10th in order to make the playoffs. If they don't win that game, if they don't take care of the games they have to, right? Empire, 3 points. St. Louis, 3 points. Utica get at least a point. St. Louis, 3 points. That would be the 10. They get 10 points. Doesn't probably matter what Baltimore does. They'll be okay unless Baltimore goes gaga and starts winning in Chihuahua and winning in Monterey and the like. If that happens, I'm just going to, I don't know. I'll call up Gio to buy a Blast jersey. I'll get a Stan Stamenkovich jersey and I'll wear it on Soccer's Overtime. If nonsense like that happens. Bottom line, Kansas City has gotten to 9 losses. So they have fallen apart. And they're at the point now that we are here. We're counting points and counting wins just to get Kansas City, formerly the number 1 team in the East, into the playoffs.
And look, the fall from grace has been nothing short of spectacular. I'd say just what's going on in Kansas City to even give a chance here for Baltimore to go over and really do anything. The Riggy's magic has run out in Utica, I feel. I think that's kind of just set and done at this point, and it's going to be a battle of who takes care of business when for that slot. And it's anybody's game right now, especially going into the last quarter of this schedule. And I think just for the chaos, I think I want Baltimore just for the chaos of it, just absolute mayhem. Just why not?
I can't disagree. I would love Baltimore to be in it right till the last weekend because I picked them to miss the playoffs for the first time in MASL history. I did that before game 1 of the season. And I, of course, would love to be right because, I mean, I don't like to lose arguments ever. So it's the talk show host in me for that. But I'd love to see it come down to the end. And, we've got either Gio or Brad in the chat saying Blast got some help signing Ricardo Dieguez. Absolutely. Dieguez was a sharp player for Tropics the last couple of years. And between Pereiras and Dieguez, they've signed away some of the key Tropics over the course of this season that can help them going forward. I got to give Baltimore credit. After starting horribly and looking like one of the worst teams in the league, they have come back. They have beaten the teams they've supposed to beat. I don't think they've had a truly remarkable win yet this year, but I think they've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat. And more importantly, Kansas City has fallen like a rock off the top of the Empire State Building, just straight downward trajectory, maximum terminal velocity, the whole thing. They've just been going straight down. So it is point counting time for Baltimore and Kansas City. And if the Blast sneak in, I'm going to have to call Brad or Gio. I'm going to have to buy a Stan Stamenkovich jersey, and I'm going to have to wear it. And I hope whichever one of you is in the chat will help me to get that Stan Stamenkovich jersey because I want authenticity. I want it to look like the pizza man. I'll eat some extra pizza to just, puff up when I wear it. But I need your guys' help on that one. First, you have to make the playoffs. Otherwise, I ain't wearing shit from Baltimore. So we'll see what.
To be honest.
Yeah. All right, pull up the tier maker. Let's see what happens.
All right.
Pull up the tier maker.
Boom. Boop.
All right, let's do this for the third time this year. We've got contender, fringe, the rest.
We can switch this up.
CD. I like sticking to the letters at the end. I like that. I actually like that. Well, contender, it's just interesting because like contender, like the best contender. The red is the elite tier. This is the S level tier. Please put Monterey first.
Boom.
Please put Chihuahua second.
Oh, wow.
I don't think you can argue with this if you're a Sockers fan. I'm sorry. I don't think you can argue with this. I think the MASL is headed toward an all-Mexico Ron Newman Cup final. And I think it's up to the third team in the contender fringe. Let's put San Diego up in that top tier behind Chihuahua. Those are your top three contenders for this league. And I think in that order. I don't really think there's a lot to be said about this. The key for San Diego, do they have the ability to beat Chihuahua? Of course. Do they have the ability to beat Monterey? Of course. They do. They do. Any one of those three teams can win the championship. For any other team to win the championship, something has to happen. So let's set out the fringe. Please put Utica next. Utica, I don't think can beat Monterey in a playoff series, but I think they can beat any other team in the East in a playoff series right now. If there was a team in the East that could beat them, it would be, please select Milwaukee. It would be the Wave. The Wave are a good but not great team this year. They have not shown greatness at any point this season, but I think if you happen to specifically suit up Utica against Milwaukee, that there's a pretty good chance that that series would go 3 games. And then it would get to the knockout game. So I'll put those two right next to each other in the second tier for contention. And I will add to that tier no one else. Let's move on.
Ooh, okay.
Let's move on. I don't think there's anyone else in that tier, Tony, because next up, I'm going to put Texas. I'll put Texas next up. 6th choice. When the mom line is 100%, when Cortez is on his game, when Uzi's blocking shots, the Outlaws on their home floor are a very, very tough team. However, they are playing without Morales and Mendez this week. I think they're going to lose twice to San Diego. That is going to put them hopelessly out of the range to have home field advantage in a series. You know what? Please put Kansas City ahead of Texas, because now that I've talked myself into this, I just don't see the Outlaws beating Chihuahua or San Diego in a series. I just don't see it. And they're going to have to play one of those two teams. And unless something completely cuckoo happens for Tacoma and Texas to find themselves into the 2-3, I mean, how? Chihuahua's going to go on a late losing bender? I can't imagine. So I think Kansas City still has the chance to turn things around where they could potentially beat one of Milwaukee or Utica in a series. I still think that's possible. Mm-hmm. I don't honestly think Texas beating Chihuahua or San Diego is realistic. Possible, I guess. Realistic, not enough for me to put them ahead of Texas. My question to you, does Tacoma belong in the 3rd slot in the rest? I think maybe.
Just based on what they've done and how they've done it and the results and who they've lost to, I think that they stand to be in this tier. And I think they're on their way to potentially show why they deserve to be here instead of being relegated a little bit more to the bottom. Again, if we're considering the mom offense really taking care of business with Texas at their best, we have to also consider Nick Pereira and company at their best when everybody's healthy. So I think we can go ahead and slide them on there.
Yeah, I think you're being very fair. I think that's fair, and I think that's proper. Hang on, I want to just look at something. I saw something in the chat. Wow. Yeah, we got to have you could almost put Tacoma over Texas. I have to actually adjust our broadcast notes, Tony. Vinny Dantas is not on this trip for Texas. So yeah, go ahead. I Texas is in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
No Mendez, no Morales, no Dantas. Maybe David Ortiz only. Texas is in trouble. They're in trouble. They're gonna get buried deep enough where they're either playing Chihuahua or San Diego on the road in the first round. Either way is big time trouble for the Texas Outlaws. Okay, let's finish out the rest. Blast is the top of this remaining group in C. They could sneak in. Put everyone else in D. I guess yeah.
Pick one. It's just like
yeah.
whoever, any given day.
All of that is fine. I guess I think Dallas is the worst of that group. Let's put them at the back. I think that's perfect right there. Strikers, Heat, Ambush, Sidekicks are all in the D tier. None of these teams have any chance. None of them are making the playoffs. None of them have any hope of making the playoffs. And they are all going to lose to every team better than them the rest of the year, which is the 9 teams above them. So I like this. I like this very much. The contender list is where it matters. I think those are the 3 teams that could win the title this year. I don't think any other team can win the title this year. If it happens, it's a gigantic. It involves Monterey losing, period. It involves Monterey losing because then one of those 2 fringe teams would jump up to the top, but they would be an underdog against either Chihuahua or San Diego, and there's just no question about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy with this. And look, there has been movement where we previously didn't really think that there would be. Blast made it out of the last bracket, so hooray.
Yeah. Can we just put them last just for fun?
Just for funsies. Here.
Yeah.
You're the best.
Last. You can't spell last without blast. They're not going to finish last. I had a dream. It was a furtive dream that they would finish last. It will not happen. All right. On to Soccers news. This is a wild week. So, the Outlaws are in town. It's a piece of the Outlaws. It's not the whole team. And the Soccers need to win all 6 points. There's just no getting around it. If anything else happens, even if the matches are close, you really have to question what's going on with the San Diego Soccers. My understanding of this club right now, Tony, is it's an 11-2 club that is hungry. It's an 11-2 club that wants to be a lot better than they are. So if you see them stumble their way to wins this week, then you'll understand this club is not in form. They're not ready. They're not ready to win at all. This team needs to, quite honestly, win 3 commanding games this week. And if they do that and pull all 9 points, the West is over. It's over.
Yeah, it's not a moment to really lick your wounds at this point. If you really want to be that team that becomes champion, that has been hardened, that's gone through it this season, I think they've already have with those 2 losses already. There's no need to really find any more inspiration in any losses, in that I think you already know what you're going to be facing down the line in the playoffs. So might as well prepare and really start, diamonds cut diamonds, but sometimes diamonds also cut butter. So let's make sure that we also take care of that right now. And 3 games that are incredibly important, not a lot of travel. This is set up to really just have the opposing teams for the Soccers in a bad mood. Like, boots should be shaking at this point. And if they're not, then again, it's a really telling of what the Soccers need to do in order to make sure that they are ready. And, I like battle-tested teams, but in the scope of what the Soccers are, I think they've been tested in battle already, and they are hurt. Now it's time to go ahead and just take care of business.
Couldn't agree more. It's time to make statements. Look, these aren't going to be the 2 best crowds of the year. They're going to be the 2 worst crowds of the year, because This game tomorrow night is a reschedule. It was supposed to be Sunday, January 7th. It got rescheduled because a water main broke. And I have heard from plenty of soccer fans already, Tony, who just can't make a weeknight game and express their regrets. And I have heard from others who can't make 2 weeknight games. Like, I might be able to make one of these 2. I might be able to make the one that I had already planned for on Thursday night to get that third kit and to get out there. But it is tough to ask people to come to the arena at 7:30 at night, Tuesday and Thursday. So I'm just saying this preemptively, even though I know the Twitch chat will be people who are not listening to this show and watching this show right now, and they'll be jumping in the first quarter going, what happened to the attendance? What's going on? I thought Sockers were a good team, and now are they about to fold? Like, give me a break. Just give me a break. It's a tough situation. I'm very happy. Marlicia's chatting about this, that San Diego Riptides is coming out strong for tomorrow night. They're going to be tailgating. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be revved up. So we love it. We love supporter culture. We love to see this happening. Very exciting for us to see that level of involvement from Riptides. Go out, go hang out with those guys, go tailgate with them in the parking lot starting at 6:00. If I could tailgate with y'all, I'd be tailgating with y'all. I got to stay professional because otherwise, as Jalen Rose says, just don't get fired, right? Like it's
yeah,
it's part of our goal. Every single time we put on the suit and we come out, just don't get fired. So I will not be tailgating with the Riptides. I wish I could be, but there'll be 2 really good matches. We'll have them both for you on MASL Soccer on Twitch. Tony and I'll be there for you. But straight up, these shouldn't be competitive matches. These should be good, solid wins, followed by a Sunday right the score game in Empire where you dominate. Like that's the roadmap for this week. It's win, dominate, 9 points.
I like what Cave Everett's saying. It better be free cookies from Cravery Cookies.
It
Tuesday and Thursday.
Absolutely.
Post Valentine's Day cookies. It's taken care of, guys and gals. Come on, gals can be romantic.
Let's do it. Yeah, red velvet for the love. Get the red velvet. So that's Tuesday, Thursday. Just remember, if you don't know, you should know. Free parking Tuesday, free parking Thursday. That's a $15 value. $10 GA tickets Tuesday, $10 GA tickets Thursday, and $3 Bud Lights Tuesday, $3 Bud Lights on Thursday. And those beautiful, beautiful third kits are on sale exclusively in the arena on Thursday night, February 15th. They will not be available on the online store until Monday, February 19th. So if you want one of these gorgeous Reverse City Connect gas lamp third kits, then please get them at the merchandise stand on Thursday evening. I'm hoping they'll have mine and yours tomorrow, Tony. I want to be wearing it on Annie and Elston on Thursday to get people hyped up to come out to the match.
I've never had a San Diego Sockers kit.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a media game kit.
Yeah, I have plenty of those, and I'm waiting for my next one to be victorious in. I'm actually probably gonna warm some of the old engines up at the Chrome Ball Tour, but hopefully I'll be healthy enough for.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just make sure you can get up the steps for our broadcasts. If nothing else, make sure you can get up there. I don't want to see Desiree carrying you up in a sling to the top.
She can do it. If anybody can, she can do it.
Susan Barber. So if only, Susan, we are a 4-hour YouTube show every day, Susan. I have to pick what I wear every day for 97.3 The Fan. We are live on video every single day. It is radio and everyone can see me. So real facts. I like to wear Soccer's kits on Fridays on Annie and Elston. I call it Fresh Kit Friday. on Annie Nelson, and I wear one of my boutique T-shirts the other 4 days a week. Today it was Mal Hall, laugh, great comedian, Mal Hall comedy. Check it out. But yeah, Susan, when I was coming up in radio, one of the things we used to always say was no one can see you in radio, so you can be wearing a tuxedo every day as far as they're concerned. If you want to think like you're dressed to the nines, then you are, and you can do that while you're wearing a T-shirt and sweatpants. Instead, when I wear a T-shirt and sweatpants to the radio like I did today, you can see my T-shirt at least. If not my sweatpants. So
you got a face for radio and the internet, Craig. It works out. It worked out well.
I know, right? That old joke. You got a face for radio. I'm like, well, I guess that's messed up for the YouTube feed then, because they have to see me. So
that's why people tune into the YouTube. That's why we're there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Our next home match after this weekend is the 25th, when Kansas City comes to town, and maybe we deal them another fatal blow in their playoff run and get Brad and Gio fired up for a B-last push into the playoffs. But it is country night. There will be a giveaway Sockers cowboy hat. There you see, that is a pretty accurate rendition of the cowboy hat. It's got the little upturned corners on the side. It's kind of, I don't know, meshy. Doesn't have the Beatles that the Padres hats did a couple of years ago. But those Sockers cowboy hats are free to everyone in attendance while supplies last on Sunday, February 25th. And with a special ticket, sdsockers.com/ticket specials, you can be boot scooting with a special country line dancing clinic at 2:45 p.m. down on the floor at Pechanga Arena, San Diego. Mr. Boot Scootin' is doing it's not his legal name, but there's like a very famous guy that I tagged in social media today on this, so you can go look that up on the Sockers Instagram. I'm not going to look it up right now. I'm a video show. I got to look at the screen. Yeah. But with a special ticket, you can come in early and do some country line dancing down on the floor with all your friends and with professional guidance on Sunday, February 25th, country night, boot scooting line dance clinic at 2:45 p.m. Get your ticket, special ticket needed to go to the boot scooting clinic, sdsockers.com/ticket specials. That's different from boot knocking. If you want to knock boots, that's up to you. That's afterwards. And no special ticket needed, just a special friend.
That's what Wednesday's all about. That's what this week's all about.
That's what Wednesday's all about. Exactly. Find your special friend on Valentine's Day and then get ready for boot scooting and boot knocking afterwards. Oh my.
This is what happens on a Monday, San Diego Soccer's overtime episode.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in a Monday mood. Last thing. Sorry, Karen. Sorry about that.
George Takei's oh my.
Sunday, the week concludes Sunday afternoon at Empire. That is a 4:00 game up at Ontario Arena. I know some of our Sockers fans will be up there for the Sockers and the Empire Strikers. I do intend to be there on Sunday. I know Sean Bowers, John Green, I think myself are all planning to be there. If something happens between now and Sunday and I don't have to make it. But I think we have Monday off for President's Day on the show. So I think we should be all good on that. So yeah, Sunday at Empire. Again, Tuesday night at home, Thursday night at home, Sunday on the road. It's a very busy week. It is a tough week for these guys and for their legs. It is a week that you hope to get out with 9 points and 0 injuries. And I think, honestly, that's just the bottom line, Tony.
Yeah, no, it's a really decent, outlook and goal to have for the week, but it's not undoable to really just go through the West and just take care of everything that you need to do, tighten things up, work on those power plays, work on those set pieces, work on those penalty kills, work on everything you need to do in order to be prepared for the last couple of weeks of the season leading into the playoffs. Get all of that, ugh. Can't find a word in Spanish for that. It's the same word. It's the same word, actually, now that I think of it. But no, it's definitely a time for the Sockers to tighten things up and take care of business. And let's get some Cravery cookies for the people.
Yeah, I'm with Gabe Vibert there. 9 points, around 30 goals for the week, around 10 conceded for the week would be a great week. It would be a week that would show that the Sockers are in form, that the Sockers are ready to roll. Anything less than that, and we're going to come back here on this show next Tuesday and say they're not quite in form yet, and there's still time, but they're not informed. So that'll be the report that we'll have back for you on this show next week. That does it for this week's edition of Soccer's Overtime, Season 6, Cornered. Want to say special thanks to our guest, Rene Ortiz. Incredible stuff today. Thanks to all you great Sockers fans who make this a destination for you, even when we have to scoot it up 24 hours like we did this week. We thank you for your patronage. Shout out Gabe Klum. I'm going to get this up by the morning. I promise. I'm going to get this up by the morning because we need it for the broadcast tomorrow night anyway. So I really have to, but we'll get this up for you right away. And Tony, on the way out, let everyone know where they can find you.
Absolutely. Thank you for everybody who's been supporting us. You can go ahead and find me at _Tony Sanchez and everything that we do to cover soccer in San Diego at sandiego.futbol on Monday. So we go live at 8. That's almost time. Just realized.
Yeah, So I got Padres Hot Tub next, and you've got Two Balls in a Bike next. So I guess we got to get rid of this show before we get on to the next show. I'm on every day, creating 20 hours of content a week. Annie and Elston on 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Join us there. Make sure you find us. We're on YouTube every day as well. We're on the Odyssey app as well. Padres Hot Tub. You can check that out. We don't have a thing for that. You can follow me on Twitter at 619 Sports. You can follow me on Instagram at 619 Sports and Life. For Rene Ortiz, for Tony Sanchez, I'm Craig Elston. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Hope to see you Tuesday and Thursday at the Grand Old Arena. Until then, have a great week. Enjoy all of the soccer. We'll see you next Tuesday. And go Sockers!